We have such a process involved in everything we do here that nothing will go out of here if it's not ready. If it doesn't pass every certain test in succession, then the aircraft does not move forward. It's quite safe. My mother doesn't think so, but it is very much so.
There are aspects of being a test pilot that really take a special kind of person, a special constitution, and special abilities, both technical and professionally. I think a test pilot is above all a professional. They're not hot doggers, they're not cowboys, they're there to do a job. It's a very specific job as opposed to just go out and fly and have a good time and wrap it around itself. Not as opposed to other careers, but in aviation you need to become a professional. And the reason for that is probably obvious. Everything you do, somebody's life depends on it, including your own. You want to be precise about how you fly, you want to be responsible with your passengers, you want to be responsible when you're turning wrenches on the aircraft because somebody's going to fly your aircraft. That teaches you professionalism, it teaches you safety, it gives you pride about your work, and you actually get to see it fly or fly it yourself. And I think that is what really drew me to aviation.
To fly a helicopter, both of your hands, both of your feet, and your mouth are working.
The first time I started learning, I thought there is no way that I'm going to be able to do this. I was all over the place.
I got in and the instructor took us up. He gave me one control and then he gave me two and then he said, okay, you have it. And I was convinced I had it and drifted about 30 feet. And he's like, oh, you don't got it. So he took the controls back over.
And I was pregnant at the time. The whole time I was training to be a helicopter pilot, I was pregnant.
I think it's just like everything else you learn, riding a bike, skateboard. Everything takes a little bit of coordination and time.
Once you get through it all, though, it's well worth it. And on the other side, may not seem like it at the time when you're going through training. And then the difficult part after getting your initial training, and if you work as a CFI, building your hours, is to get a job.
Once you get your first turbine job, you got some experience, then it opens up a little bit more, and I think that's probably like any other career. The more experience you have, the more skills you acquire, there's more options for you out there.
When I began working for Sikorsky, I had already done a lot of different jobs in the civilian and military industry. I flew Hueys and Blackhawks in the Army. And I went from flying infantry soldiers around and yelling at them when we land, get out, get out, get out. You know, they have 3 seconds to get the heck out of the helicopter and we're gone, to moving to Las Vegas and flying tours with somebody's grandma sitting next to me.
When I was 5, I went to Germany to visit my grandmother. And my aunt was a flight attendant for Pan American at the time. And I got to serve the hot towels, and I thought, I'm going to be a flight attendant. So from 5 to 18, I knew that's what I was going to do. So I applied to 2 major airlines, and they said, sorry. And I went, what? So I said, okay, I'm going to be a pilot instead.
Well, my full name is Amelia Earhart, like I said. Most people find that to be a little strange, so it draws a lot of attention, but my family is distantly related to the original Amelia Earhart, and I was named after her. My family doesn't really have many ties to aviation. They just wanted to give me a name that was a positive female role model. They wanted to give me a name that nobody would ever forget, but they kind of let me find aviation on my own.
It's kind of funny because I didn't want to fly helicopters. They made me, and now I love it. My background is fixed wing. You know, I started flying when I was 15 years old, and you know, I've flown corporate, I've flown LifeLink for LifeLink 3, so that was air ambulance, and I flew for commuters, I flew for a charter company, Sun Country Airlines, then I was on with Delta Airlines for a year, and then after 9/11 they furloughed 1,000 people, 1,100, and I was one of them. And when I found a job here at Mosquito Control as a part-time fixed-wing pilot, after a while a position finally opened up where they created for an assistant chief pilot, I started doing that. And then the position for chief pilot was opening up. But they required that the chief pilot be dual rated. And so they trained me to be a helicopter pilot.
While helicopters are something that I think most people are at least vaguely interested in, doesn't mean that everybody would necessarily want to work in a helicopter. So if you do get a job at a newsroom, usually you're going to have to work your way up to the helicopter. That's at least been my experience. But if you show interest as a reporter in just going up for a ride, maybe shadowing one of the reporters that works in the helicopter, I think that's a great opportunity. People who are in helicopters, and I know Chris agrees with this, when somebody shows interest, we'll talk their ear off all day. I'm like, you want to see how I run the camera? Come on out. I'll spend 2 hours telling you about it because we love what we do.
There's a lot of ways you can become an A&P mechanic. I'll give you a little background here. You can go to school for 2 years. There's people that were in the military as mechanics, but in order to get a civilian license, they have to submit that experience and they can take tests. Or you can work under an aircraft inspector like myself for 3 years, and that inspector can sign you off and you get your license. This is how I got mine. It's the hardest road to go, but you know what you're doing by the time you do get your license for sure. And I actually have a degree in psychology. I was going to law school and took a summer job waxing airplanes and World War II airplanes, and I never left aviation again.
The Whirlier organization is quite unique. When I actually became a private pilot, they issue you a number, and I became 587. I believe there were a little over 1,700 now internationally. What's really nice is if someone wants to forward their career in aviation, they can actually apply for scholarships. A few of my girlfriends have actually received scholarships, $5,000 scholarships on up.
You certainly wouldn't want to invest a lot of time and money in something and find out later that you get motion sick and it just isn't for you. And we have had that happen. So, first of all, if somebody thinks they might be interested in doing this, they need to make sure that the actual field is for them, the nursing field or the paramedic field. And if that fits, then there are opportunities to fly along with certain programs. They do allow you to do that. You get your feet wet, decide, and usually you'll know right away, oh, this is for me, or this is not for me.
A lot of people go fixed wing and then they go over and add on the helicopter rating. I chose to just do it all in the helicopters. That was where my heart was and my passion was.
Basically, you have to love to fly and you have to like helicopters. It's not as glamorous as everybody makes it out to be, so if you're just looking for the image of being a helicopter pilot, it's a lot of work, and I mean, depending on where you go, it's still a job, it's still work, so you really must enjoy it.
I get up at 3:15 in the morning, and that's horrible. When that alarm goes off, I won't lie, I don't get up and go, yeah, I'm going to work. But the second I pull into the driveway here at the airport and I see that helicopter sitting out there on the ramp, that's when I go, all right, let's do it again. Let's see what's going to happen today, because that's what's cool about this job. I never know.
I flew for New York Helicopters in 1988, and I actually took some time off, and then now I'm back flying. And when I first got hired with the chief pilot here at Bristow, I think he had more confidence in myself than I did at the time. I had actually flown in 14 years. I decided to get married and have a family, and actually thought my career was done. And my dad passed away 2 years ago, and that, I think, shocked me into life is short. And the only flying I was doing was in my dreams. I'd look up and I'd see the helicopters, and I'd tell my kids, oh, that's a A-Star, there goes a Jet Ranger, and they're like, well, what's that? And I'm like, I'm gonna get back into this.
Your love for aviation could start at any age. You can be impacted by something at any age, and there are so many different jobs you can have in aviation. You can be good at math, you can be good at the arts, you can be good at reading. If you really like computer science, you can find a home in aviation. So if you have any interest at all, I really recommend just go to some small airport and talk to some of the pilots around there. If you want to get started in any kind of industry, you just need to start networking. Don't be shy, get out there and go for what you want to do. I never considered myself particularly special at anything, and look what I got to do. So I would just encourage you, if you have any interest at all, go check it out.